me just use a finger here to start swinging open the gateway to our weekend, ladies and gentlemen. It's a Friday edition of Kelly and Company. On today's show, Spencer West is a motivational speaker, content creator, and amputee who is changing the conversation around disability. We hear his personal story and what drove him to inspire millions of people. Also, in a while on the show, Michael Feir brings us a chilling treat, The Conception of Terror, a collection of 4 haunting tales inspired by the stories of M.R. James. These have been refreshed for modern times. This guy is always ready to frighten us on this show. Bring it on, Mike, bring it on!
This is Kelly and Company.
Kelly MacDonald here, host of the program, and I want you to do me a favor and check out our podcast from your platform of choice and give us a rating and review. Also subscribe to our YouTube page if you would. We want to get those numbers up. Want you enjoying the content that's over there. Guests with me on the show co-hosting today, Brock Richardson right there, Nazreen Abdul-Majid, both of you, good day. Welcome to the Friday edition.
Happy Friday, everyone.
Well, Mr. Richardson?
No, he's quiet.
I was just going to say,
but I think it was...
It was like a muffled or muted good day.
Weekend.
Yeah, like you said the gateway's open. I'm out of here.
Yeah, you already opened it, so I just walked through. Yeah.
That's right. I walked through and I'm gone. That's it. We've been doing the swinging open of the gateway for years on the show. I don't even remember, Brock, how it started, when we started. I think it was just something I threw out there on a Friday, and just kind of we've went with it. The only thing that's ever questioned me is when our programming on AMI audio means there's other shows or content such as Parasport Nation afterward, and we've had other situations where back in the day, the Neutral Zone, Brock, you guys were after the show, and I'm telling people, we're swung open the gateway for the weekend. Now get going, go, 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 go. A little rude on my part.
Just a tad.
But we accepted it. We understood.
Oh, I'm sure everyone involved with your show
I'm sure Brock
was very fine.
Was cursing in the back end for sure.
Yeah. We're going for the gateway to the weekend. That's right. It's swung open, but don't leave until we're done. Our helpful Kelly.
All I will say to you is I understood and I get it.
Now, as for the rest of the people on the show, I digress. Nazreen, what's going on our show today? You want to get us started?
Okay, Kels. So today we're going to get personal, we're going to get motivated, and we are going to get very real with a very special guest. It's not just Spencer's story, it's the story of everyone with a disability, right? The awkward questions, the quiet hurt, the learning to laugh so we don't cry. Spencer West is a motivational speaker, content creator, and amputee who's changing the conversation around disability with thoughtful content. He's showing us that when content is inclusive and funny, it's not just brain candy, it builds a stronger disability community. Spencer, welcome back. Thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So you're known for your honesty, your humor, and your impact. But before all that, let's rewind. How did this all start for you? What made you decide to become a content creator?
I mean, initially I was working for a social enterprise here in Canada and traveling like 200 days out of the year. So initially it was just to stay in touch with my friends and family. And I'm so old that I remember before Instagram, I remember the day Instagram started. And so I used it as a way to stay in touch. But then as my speaking career sort of took off, what I was getting, and I say this with the utmost humility, after my speeches, people were saying, wow, how do we find more of you? And I was like, oh, interesting. So it became a way for me to connect with people afterwards and to connect with new people. And then eventually, in 2021, my TikTok sort of exploded. And I was like, oh, now I really have an opportunity that I built an audience to actually say something of importance and of value, and hopefully bring some attention to some of the identities that I hold.
Wow. In the midst of the pandemic, too, that's what I find so wonderful when you notice that it was a time when the world really changed, Spencer.
It really was. And, I think we as disabled folks, I don't know if I can speak for everyone, but for myself, I was like, well, I feel a lot of comfort that everyone's on an equal playing field right now of not having access to the world. And disabled people have always been really good at building community online. So it was sort of great, we know how to do this. So I feel ready for this.
Yeah.
clearly comedy is your outlet. How has your humor helped you tackle the ignorance and the awkwardness that people with disabilities often face?
Mm.
I think y'all nailed it at the beginning. It's first of all, sometimes we have to do it to keep from crying because if I have to hear that question one more time,
I know.
Um, so I think part of it is that, and part of it is I think what it helps relax people because we've never learned how to interact with folks with disabilities. And so people don't know what to do. And so they're afraid to say the wrong thing or they just say the wrong thing. So I think if we can get people to laugh, it eases the tension a little bit. And then we can realize, oh, I'm not this like scary person. I have a sense of humor and I have all of the range of emotions that non-disabled folks have. And like, let's humanize this first and then maybe we can talk about my disability.
Yeah, a lot of
It's
people
so
forget
interesting you
that.
say it that way too. Yeah, and I felt that way, and I don't know about the rest of you. I know myself. And I remember telling Brock this, as a matter of fact, I've never known a lot of people in wheelchairs. So I used to be afraid, and I know most people are. They say, well, what are you afraid of saying wrong? Like to a blind person, hey, what'd you watch last night? Oh, gosh, I'm sorry. But I know I had the same kinds of fears to talking to people in wheelchairs saying, am I going to say something stupid? And who knows? In my head, I don't know what that could be. Yeah, but you'll find it and you'll say it. So I totally, I understand when you say that. I think we fall into that same category. Spence, your content doesn't just go viral, however. It resonates with so many people. Why do you think that is?
I mean, what I try to do is to infuse that humor into it and take a situation that can feel very heavy to me and then make a joke out of it in a way that also feels educational so people want to digest it. And I'm not just pointing a finger and saying you need to be better. There's a time and place for that, but I find that
Right.
if we can make it funny and bring people in with humor, then they're also typically more willing to learn something at the same time, or just sneak it in and they don't realize that they're learning something,
No one wants to be kind of preached to. Is there a time in your mind, what is that time when you do have to kind of scream it at people?
Yeah, I did a video a while ago that just got destroyed in the comments, but it was a really important video on non-disabled folks not using the accessible stall. And
Yeah.
it was, and I was a bit angry at that because I experienced that so often. And so to put that out into the world, there were a lot of people who were like, well, what if it's an emergency? And I was like, literally everyone in the comment has IBS. What's happening out there?
Exactly.
Like, is
Yeah.
everyone having an emergency today? Like, it's always an
Apparently
emergency.
so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just like the accessible parking spot, people take
Yes.
advantage of that, and they're like,
Or
"Oh
the
yeah,
door
I'm just
openers,
gonna go
right?
really quick."
And I think that the door openers are the one, and I get there are people carrying packages, there are people who have other circumstances who need to use that. The sad part is when the thing goes down and it takes forever to get parts in, the one person who can't just use the other doors gets compromised.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, it's frustrating.
Or the honest answer from people is, well, I was only going to be in that accessible parking spot for 30 seconds, I swear. And it's like,
You don't mind
Totally.
waiting, do you?
Sure, yeah. I don't mind at all. When we look at social media, Spencer, what's the response been like when you see people who relate to your story and see it on your social media for the first time? What's that like for you?
My favorite feedback that I get is, as someone that I also identify as being gay, and people are always like, "What? You're gay and disabled?" And the idea that exists, number one, is always so wild. But the feedback that I'm so grateful for is when another queer disabled person is like, "I'm so grateful there's someone else, and I don't feel so alone." Because we don't have a lot of mainstream examples of disabled folks in general, and then you throw in queer identities, and that's even less. And so to be that example is so lovely. And then the other thing that I'm always so humbled by is the non-disabled folks that have learned something new, learned not to use the elevator if they don't need to, or understanding that pushing their coffee shop that they go to that has stairs, asking them why they don't have a ramp because of the content that I put out. So I think it's those things that I'm always so touched by.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so it's time for our rapid fire, and I'm gonna put you under pressure, and let's have
Ready.
fun here. I want you to answer as quick as possible the first thing that comes to mind. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's get started. What's one myth about disability you're tired of hearing?
That we don't like to have sex.
Ooh. Okay. All right. Funniest DM or comment you've ever received?
I just have to say this out loud. Because of how I am, people are obsessed with understanding what's below the waist. So I get more comments about my penis on Instagram than I do on Grindr.
Oh my goodness. Oh,
I
wow.
honestly, I could see that. You know, like a lot of people are ignorant. What's
Well,
your
and
favorite
online
way?
makes everyone braver to kind
Yeah,
of say
that's
it.
so
Totally.
true. That is so true. They
Totally.
think that because they're behind the screen, you know, it doesn't exist. Like they didn't say anything, but they do.
Yeah.
What's your favorite way people pretend accessibility isn't their problem?
I mean, I think we just sort of addressed it earlier. It's like the bathroom stall. Oh no, it's
Mhm.
fine. It'll just be a few minutes. Cool. Well, you took away my only option. So
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing, isn't it? The only option. What a small act of inclusion, as far as you're concerned, that makes a big difference?
my friends have gotten really good at this. Um, Before we go out somewhere, I don't have to be the person to call to make sure that the place we're going is accessible. They've started to do it.
Nice.
Mm.
And I'm sure learn that too and pick the places. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's a creator you'd love to collab with?
Oh my God, there's so many. Amani Barbarin, Crutches and Spice, Carson Tueller, Nina Tame. I could go on and on and on, but those three come to mind instantly.
Very
We're gonna tag
good.
them in this post.
You betcha. One word you'd use to describe your fandom?
You have a
I would say
fandom, man.
lovely. Yeah, I would say lovely. They're so lovely.
Okay, to connect that question, what is your fandom name?
I don't think we
Because
don't
I
have
was
one.
thinking, I was thinking about the Westers.
Oh, wow.
Does it
Interesting.
click? Are we
I like
making
that.
that happen? Hashtag
Wow.
I mean,
Westers.
yeah, yeah. You heard it here first.
Wow.
Breaking
Oh, I
news.
like that. Yeah. The
Yeah.
Westers, the Norwester, like or Norwesters, right? Ah, that's awesome. Maybe not
I like
Nor.
that.
Maybe Nor doesn't work. North, whatever. Wow.
Mhm.
Really cool. Great idea, Nisreen. And don't, after we're done the show, get a hold of him and say, now I'll just take a nominal fee for that.
Yeah. Side hustle. No, I'm kidding. And a last question is what advice you would give to your younger self?
Things are going to be hard, and you don't have to figure out everything on your own.
Ooh,
Short and
boy,
sweet.
I like that.
I love that. Yeah.
God, that's great.
What's your advice, Kelly, for your younger self?
For my younger self,
Yeah.
just keep reaching for the stars. Oh no, sorry, that was Casey Kasem's. Always accept that you're going to have to be a teacher to people if you want that broader conversation of acceptance to become the norm.
Awesome.
I like that.
I love that. Well, thank
no,
you so much.
There's
Spencer.
no fee
Oh,
for
wait.
that. You're not getting in on that. You're not getting in.
No, I'm getting on that. I'm getting in on that.
That's the
Another
one.
side hustle.
Thanks,
Thank
Spence.
you so much, Spencer. That was incredible.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It was nice to see you again.
You too. That was Spencer West telling us about his experience as a motivational speaker, content creator, and amputee. If you haven't done so, follow Spencer on Instagram and TikTok as Spencer to the West, because you're living under a rock.
Ah, right. Sounding good. I'm surprised you didn't work in your Wester or my Norwester.
Or the Wester, yeah. Hashtag the
right?
Wester.
The Westers.
Become part of the
Westers?
fandom. Because
Yeah,
it's going to be a big community. It is a big community. That's for
It
sure.
sounds like it. What I loved is the during the pandemic, the way people were looking for people and following and listening. And I always think that people with social media, the one benefit is people consume it and learn and take things in their own way without the being preached at without being. Now you don't grab. I'll show you how to guide. Now you let me take you. We don't. If people would rather. Oh, is that how you do that when you meet a blind person? Oh, is that what you do? And we've all, Brock Nisreen, had those experiences. Speaking of experiences, the other day we had a chocolate conversation on the program. We asked producer Ramya Muthan to join us for it, and we actually have a phone message from a longtime voice fan of the program. Speaking of fandom, Robert just left us something the other day. Let's take a listen.
Hello, Kelly and Company. Robert Just here in Midtown Toronto. Zeroing in on your chocolate bar discussion. Ramya, you mentioned not caring for fruit in a chocolate bar. Well, this takes me back to the 1960s, when a very popular item was the cherry blossom. Now, the cherry blossom was not really a bar because it had a big bulge in the center. And in the middle of that, you had a mixture of cherry juice and nuts. And you had to be very careful while eating it because it could redecorate your clothing big time. And I know that from my own experiences. Do you remember the cherry blossom? I believe it's still available. So long for now, and munch away.
Thanks, Robert Just. I think he's aiming that at me. Guys, I'll take the start on this one. I do remember the cherry blossom. I don't remember the nuts in it. I remember the cherry blossom, I remember, came in its own square box, which I think is how come, like Robert said, it wouldn't have qualified as a chocolate bar, even though we considered it chocolate bars. I remember them because I figured if you had a darn thing like a chocolate chunk, and they classified that, I think, as a chocolate bar, and it was just a chunk of chocolate, these things could have been. They were so tasty. Obviously, if you don't like cherry, and it wasn't tart cherry, it was still really sweet with the syrup, but I don't remember the nuts in it. I liked it. It was one of my favorites.
Immediately.
With the nuts, the cherry in it,
blossom as like
the name,
a chocolate bar, chocolate with any type of fruit, any type of anything else other than chocolate, I'm out.
Okay. All right, Richardson.
I am with you. I am with you 100% on that. My wife likes these little cherry chocolates that you get from the dollar store, and I took one bite of it, and it's like, oh, that's disgusting. Like, no, chocolate is good just on its own.
Well, I think the key there is you said from the dollar store. So we were going through a whole session of cheap chocolate the other day. There is cheap fruit like that and syrup that you get in some of those as well that lend themselves to a yuck factor. I'm going to ask Michael Feir because I need someone else on my side. Mr. Feir, as you join us before we get into our topic with you, cherry blossoms. Do you remember those? And were you a fan? And would you eat if you don't remember?
I don't remember those. They were, of course, in literature. Yeah, but I would certainly try. I have no objection to other things in my chocolate. I mean, for me, Mars bars and Three Musketeers were and still are kind of favorites, and Bounty.
Yeah, right.
That sort of thing. Yeah, those were my favorite. But I like the idea. It's one of those things that I've read in usually older short stories and things like that, but I've never pursued.
Like, I can't imagine somebody just sitting there craving fruit and chocolate at the same time. It was great. It boggles my mind.
But people never understood that because of raisins being in there and other things, nuts, so they don't think about it the same way. My favorite bar was the Bar 6 when I was a kid, which was one in Quebec. I was speaking to Marco Flalo about this the other day because I believe they went away a very long time ago. I remember when we moved to Ontario, my mother looked high and low for them because it was the baby's favorite, but couldn't find it.
Never heard of that one at all.
No, like I said, I believe it was Quebec only. I didn't know that, of course, at 5 years old, 6 years old. I couldn't understand. Why do the Ontario people eat them all up? Email us, kellyco@ami.ca. We'd love to hear from you. Also, give us a call like Robert did, 1-866-509-4545. Well, Michael Feir always enjoys well-crafted scary stories. He's here now to talk to us about a collection of 4 ghost stories inspired by a true master of the art. Tell us, Mike, about M.R. James, if you don't mind, who began creating ghost stories.
Yeah, so this guy basically was born in 1862, lived until 1936, and he wrote ghost stories later in life. He was an academic, and basically was in medieval history was his specialty. So he had a lot to draw from when you think about it. And he wrote early horror stories. And he didn't, like, he published these basically to, he wasn't originally going to be he published. They were created to tell to friends. There was a tradition among academics, and they would tell Christmas ghost stories at Christmas, right? That was, and you'd get together and you'd have all these stories that you'd created to impress your academic pals. And these weren't written for publication, but they ended up being published. Then he basically realized, oh, people really like these, and he kind of made a second career in his life and has a strong impact on the ghost story of the 20th century, basically. And people still look
weird?
back.
It's strange to me when you say around Christmas time, and then I think of A Christmas Carol with the ghosts and stuff like that. And, because to me, it's weird. And that was always weird. Why do we have ghosts at Christmas time? Somebody missed by a couple of months.
Yeah. Yep, but it's been a long-standing tradition.
Wow. Never heard of that. Brock, anyone scare you with Christmas stories? Other than A Christmas Carol?
No, I can't say. I mean, I've been never into like scary stuff. I mean, as I got older, I was into like Stephen King stuff a little bit, but not too much.
Yeah. But these are story. Well, no, I better not say that before you get into. Well, but Niz, do you associate scary stories like that with the summer around a campfire or what?
Yeah, the idea of that is a no. First of all, camping, no. Scary stories, no.
It's a double no.
Like that? No.
These double-barreled no-nos. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Michael. But Michael, you fall.
I'm so gullible, Kelly. Like that's the issue.
Well, and sometimes people hearing that stuff in the dark in the night, just like, whoa. Now, Michael, do you fall into that camp kind of stories? And I cut Brock off from saying, about the Stephen King stuff only because of the size, right? They're not really like sitting around. Yeah. No one's going to tell you in like over in front of the campfire overnight, right? Like it's not gonna. These are long.
These are shorter. Yeah, these are shorter stories that were designed to just be, and you take turns, right? And you'd have an evening of these. So yeah, like that, and I like both. I love the long Stephen King novels, but I also, I like the short story. He's sometimes at his best in his short stories, and you wish there was more to them because the characters are so well realized. So I've always appreciated that.
So where do we go with these now? There's 4 of them. What are we talking about? And again, one of these I didn't really realize, but I guess you're right. Like it's definitely a short story. I've never actually read the story. One of the ones you've got here, Casting the Rooms. I've heard it as a drama mainly.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I've never looked into Emma James at all until now, and this is the first dive I've had of that. And the stories are modernized, like they're really changed. When he wrote them, I mean, it was academics. The women were kind of more minor characters. Like all of these things now that have to be taken and modernized, and for modern audiences. So a lot of work went into that. Characters use smartphones. Technology is present. This is these aren't looks back at the past. These are brought right up to the present. So that was done really, really well, and really good production values. So it's very well acted. And so basically we got 4 stories here. We got the Casting the Runes is basically we have Jo Harrington, female professor, reviewer for a scientific journal, and she gets to review this Alchemy of Truth book by Anton Carswell, and he is expert in witchcraft, and she's like, this has no place in my journal. This is bollocks, right? I mean, just utter, like she was just incensed at the idea and never really delved into the book seriously. She didn't do a serious read of the book, and basically Carswell didn't like that. And it should have been anonymous, but there was an email mistake, and so he finds out who she is, and she comes, and he gives the book, a copy of the book with a curse in the dedication to her, and that curse gives her 3 days at most to live. And so the clock is now ticking, and her husband happens to be this doctor, and he is really. And I'm going to say, right. So both of these people are now racing against this curse and trying to escape the fate that is coming for them. And so it's a well done, modernized take on an old.
Is the dialogue modernized as well?
Yes.
Is it? Or is it okay? So it's not like, I mean, no matter what you want to say, it's not classic.
Yeah, this is really moved into the modern era. The core ideas kept, the core characters are there, but the story is brought right into the modern era. So very well done in that department.
Okay.
So you have that.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
That's the first story.
Right.
And the next one we have Lost Hearts is another one that is basically a building where children tend to disappear. And basically the social services, when there's nowhere else for you to go, they find these foster homes for you. And this looks like a nice building. Unfortunately, it's not so nice in the sense that, for some reason, it seems like everything's going right. They have all these good people. They have, it seems like everyone's really nice there, but there's a reason for that, and it's a very nasty one. And Stephanie is a 16-year-old who basically has to contend with ghosts and figure out who she can trust to try and survive this. So that's the second one. Third one of Treasury of Thomas Abbott. Basically, this is a boarding school with a sinister secret in its past, and a new history teacher there, Mika, is befriended by an obsessed former student who wants to know what the prize was in this treasure hunt that he never actually did as a kid. He just excluded himself from it in any way he could. And the teacher would say, "Oh, you have to do this hunt at some point. It might happen later in life." And it kind of does, and they have to survive the consequences of a kind of a haunting that happens. So, very creepy story, really well
treasure
told.
hunt fandom.
Yeah, as well. So, and then we have A View from a Hill. This fourth story is about a couple, Paul and Sarah. Paul is an obsessive podcaster and likes the supernatural, wants to record stuff, and has a podcast that tries to help people dealing with grief and things. And they've just lost a child, so he wants to kind of take advantage of that almost. Get his podcast boosted. His wife is just suffering grievously. She was there when the kid ran off before she could stop him, and unfortunately the kid dies, and she's really suffering, and they go to this hotel out in the country, supposed to be a vacation from it all, supposed to be a chance to reconnect, but he is obsessed. He's always recording stuff, and she has just had it with this. And they go out for a walk and discover this old monastery, and it's kind of in ruins, right? And it's there's a reason for that. It's been kind of cursed, and bad things have happened there, but they don't realize that right away, and they get followed back home. They're haunted by the laughter of children, and they are driven slowly insane, right? And they eventually are basically almost kicked out of the hotel and decide to return to the monastery. So very creepy, because they don't want to lose a chance at connecting with their kid for a last goodbye. So
great.
Very haunting stuff.
You're satisfied with the production? We're about out of time, Mike. Very briefly satisfied?
Yes. Bafflegad Productions produced these, and they do a really good job. We've heard them before in the Uncanny podcast and Battersea Poltergeist. So they're top-notch people, and they've done these superbly well. Good acting, good sound, good music. Everything is just spot on, and you will definitely get your credits worth from these.
Okay, pal. Thank you very much. These dramedies are for adult listeners. You can find them on Audible and buy them for $1, as Mike mentioned, or $18.19 for Audible members. Michael Feir joins us every other Friday with audio entertainment. Thanks, Mike.
Pleasure. We'll see you next time.
Okay. Niz, Brock, thank you for settling in here. Great show. Great conversations, guys.
Happy Friday.
Thank you.
Take care. Enjoy yourselves. Folks, follow us. Nazreen's out there on Instagram and Twitter at Kelly & Co. AMI. Always love to interact with you. Brock Richardson can be found on the Neutral Zone podcast. Check them out. They drop one every week. On our next show, back-to-back food talk, from healthy to healthily indulgent. Nutritionist Julia Caranches says calcium is more than just good for our bones. So listen up while she teaches us all about this nutrient. Then, describer JJ Hunt's talk of travel foods usually involves a street deep fryer cart sitting out there that he's at. But this week, he will attempt to entice us with descriptions of healthy treats he's found around the world. Enjoy your weekend. We'll talk to you Monday. Now, get out of here, will ya?
Thanks for tuning in to Kelly and Company. Follow us on all social media. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more.